Alright, let's start it up. We are back with more Deceive Inc. Today we are finally getting to the Neon Nights, the upper echelon, all the way up to and past hotfix 1.07.03, came out September 7th, 2003, of course, and yeah, so that's what we're looking at there, that specific hotfix. If there's hotfixes after this, before the next season, this may go out of date. That's specifically what we're dealing with here. Post Neon Nights, post Upper Echelon, just after that hotfix I just listed. So we're going to start with a couple disclaimers that I think are important. First and foremost, making a tier list for this game, an agent tier list specifically, is very difficult, possibly impossible, especially without any conditions. So we are going to put some conditions on this. We'll talk about those in a minute, but just want to go over, there's so many variables in this game. How you move, skill expression, the map you're on, you know, getting lucky, getting unlucky, so many factors at play that making a tier list for this video makes making a tier list for this video game is very difficult. So we're going to talk about all the conditions I am going to put this tier list under to make it even doable, and we'll go from there. So conditions. This one should be pretty obvious. We're only talking about solos. I have the most experience with solos. That's the one I play mostly and the one I am used to seeing most. So we're only talking about solos for this. So this is how the agents do in solo games, not trios and not duos. Those aren't going to be relevant here as much as I can keep that out of it. Next up, we're only going to talk about one specific loadout. Every agent has 3 weapons, multiplied by 3 expertise, multiply that by 3 passives is 27 potential loadouts across 10 current agents. We're only going to talk about one from each. There's too many to go through, too many variables at play if we talk about more than one. So we're going to talk about one loadout from each agent. I'm going to try to pick the best one, or at least what I know to be the best one. I may be wrong. We may be talking about the totally wrong loadout, but I'm going to tier list it based on that loadout in solos. Next up, this one is going to be probably controversial, I'll say, but this tier list is about fighting, surviving or winning fights, not necessarily winning the game. It's going to be about just how these characters do in fights, and fighting well should lead to winning, but winning does not always equate to you fighting well. So if you want to win, this may not be the best tier list, but if you want to do well in fights, which may lead to winning, this is a good tier list. Doing an actual tier list around who do you play if you want to win the game is super difficult because of all the factors at play involving how you play the game and what sort of fights you are or are not taking. So, you know, at the end of the day, in order to win the game, all you have to do is get the package and leave. You could do that without getting in a single fight, and that has been shown and demonstrated. And yeah, that's definitely something that does happen, not very often, but it is possible. So if your only goal is to win, it may have no impact on how good your character is at fighting. So if your goal is to win fights, which can lead to winning, this is where we are at now. That's why I've kind of picked this. And then we're going to talk about 2 types of fights specifically. That's why I'm conditioning it even further than that. There's mostly only 2 types of fights in Deceive, so this should be easy. There's ones where you initiate. That's where you detect someone's a spy and you get the first shot and get to sort of play the fight the way you would like to. And then there's you being ambushed, which is when you're on the receiving end of the person has snuck up on you, and now you are on the sort of receiving end of that initiation. You are being ambushed is what we'll call it. So we have initiation and we have ambush type fights. Being ambushed and being the initiator. So these are the two types of fights we're going to talk about, and that's really important for balance because some characters are much better at one than the other. Prime example is early in Neon Nights before Upper Echelon. This is no longer the case. As an example, this works well though. The Sasori Weapon 2 combo had a 96 damage initiation with the bomb and the sword swipe. That is no longer the case, but it was probably the best initiation in the fight, but if you were being ambushed, there was no way to achieve that, and he was actually fairly low. So while he may have been an S tier initiator, he was not an S tier when he was getting ambushed. So that's the kind of things we're going to have to weigh in this tier list. And then finally, this entirely is all my opinion. Other people may have different opinions and do. I know that for a fact, having talked to people. And there's no right answer here. These are all opinions. We're all looking at the same facts, using our own anecdotal game played, game viewing, putting that in and taking our own opinions and biases and stacking all that together to come up with what we think is best. This is what I have come up with and I am presenting that, but it is totally possible for someone to have an inverse tier list and have their own reasons for that, and they could still be correct. So this is what I have seen and experienced, and yeah, so we're gonna go into it now. That was kind of a long lead up, but I think all of that is very important to say to put that into context. So if you jump to the end of this video just to see what I have at the end, and then you write in the comments that this makes no sense and I was totally wrong, that's on you for not listening to my giant disclaimer at the start. So we're gonna start with Chavez here. Let me just switch to my Chavez tab. I got info on my other monitor here so that I know what I'm talking about. Loadout for Chavez we're going to talk about. We're definitely Expertise 2, Passive 3, still top tier. And then for weapon, it's a little iffy. I'm going with weapon 3. I'm calling that one best. The Duke there is the ability to two-shot, body shot into headshot for 105 damage. Your Unshakable Fortress damage reduction with your endurance train, great health, giving you HP back when you land shots. Definitely very strong, or remaining strong. It does falter a little bit. You only get 2 ammo for ammo box. You only start with about 6 or 8 ammo, if I remember. You don't start with a whole lot. It might be 12, actually. That's not something I actually had prepared, but that number. I think I'm going to put Chavez into B tier. Now, he might move later, but I think that's a good spot to put him, and then I can put people above or below him as needed or slide him up as I feel later. I think the first couple are going to be sort of place markers for where I put people. So we're going to put this for B for now, and we'll circle back around to him and maybe move him later. All right, let's talk about Ace. Let me flip to my Ace real quick. So Ace got some big changes in the upper echelon. I think weapon-wise, on Queen of Diamond, the weapon won kind of unexpectedly. The King of Diamond was top, but I think Queen of Diamond is great now. Expertise, I think we're still running Expertise 2 stacked odds, and passives are really difficult now. There's this, because they all have that bonus damage. I think you're either running the neutralize or the slow, and I think that's really a personal choice. I'm not sure one is better than the other. I'm going to say the slow is probably better in the more general case, but if you look at your lobby and you can pick the neutralize, that'll be great. I'm going to put the slowing one on your screen. So it's a 1-2-2 loadout. I think Ace is really good. She does have a bug right now where sometimes that charge shot only does the effect and not the damage, but I can't really include that in the tier list because it's a confirmed bug, I'm pretty sure. I don't have the bug list in front of me, but I'm pretty sure the first shot is supposed to do damage. So I think she's really good. Definitely, probably better than Chavez right now. Definitely, I guess I didn't really talk about the 2 types of fights with Chavez. When we come back to that, we will. So, 2 types of fight with Ace, you leading the fight with that initial shot, really strong. She's not as good at getting ambushed because normally it's not playing to her ranged advantage. So, does that make her S tier if she's really good at the one but not as good at the other? I'm going to leave her in B. And we're going to do a full overview at the end if I want to move anybody. but I think she's going to fit nicely into A tier right now. All right, Squire here. Squire did get big changes to his weapon 1 recently. That's why I'm going to call that one best. Expertise-wise, under pressure is probably the best for fighting, and that's what we're talking about. Danger sense is very good at playing safely, but it has no impact on fighting, and that is what we are talking about here. And then passive, I'm pretty sure his passive 3, the Aegis cover, is just the always pick still. It's been that way for quite a while, and I don't see that changing right now. Especially, I think it's the only one that does affect combat. So, Squire here with that weapon 1, he's not as good as Ace. He's basically the same in ambushing as he is in being ambushed, because of the way he works. He has no sort of advantage on that lead shot, like how Ace would. And with the Aegis cover, he's not so, he's actually not bad when he's being ambushed as well. He does have that sort of protection. So, Squire here, is he better than Chavez right now? I don't think I can put him up there. I used to have Squire down here, but his weapon 1 feels much better than it used to. Is it enough to bump him into B? I'm going to put him in B. He feels good to play. Alright, Madame here. Madame, let me switch to my Madame on my other monitor quickly, so I know what I'm talking about. I think we're talking weapon 1. The weapon 2 did get buffed, but I think I was buffed. Yeah, the burst time between bursts got shortened, I believe. That's a buff recently, but the weapon 1 is what we're going to talk about. I think it's more consistent damage-wise. Like, it's got the consistent DPS versus the burst fire. Expertise-wise, I don't think 1 necessarily helps her win fights more than the other. Expertise 1 or 2 is what we're using in solos mostly. 3 just does not have the range. 2 is sort of set, and you can escape fights that way. 1 you can use to reposition or escape fights. I'm going to put 1 on your screen because I think it's a bit more versatile on a pure fighting tier list. And then passive-wise, the Viper's Knowledge, I think none of them necessarily better than the other in a pure fighting like looking in a pure fighting viewpoint, but the Viper's Knowledge does give the ability to a third party better, which leads to fighting weakened enemies, which leads to winning fights. So I'm going to call that one best. So we're looking at a 1-1-1. She's really good right now. In a ambushing sense, she's not necessarily better than being ambushed, because of the snap allows you to survive that ambush pretty easily. Yeah, as long as there's NPCs around. She's very dependent on civilians or other NPCs being around. I think she's higher than Chavez, but not as high as Ace. I think she fits in right there. Alright, let's talk Hans. I guess I could go over why Madame's there. Just the damage numbers are... Yeah, it's just a feeling, I guess. It's my opinion. She's in there. She's got the damage to be there. She can survive reposition in fights with that 1. She can also track people to initiate fights on when they're in a weakened state with that passive. So yeah, she's very good at initiating on weakened enemies like that, and not bad when you're being ambushed, because you can snap away and escape fairly easily if the fight is not looking good for you. Alright, now let's talk about Hans. Hans is a tough one because I don't play a lot of Hans. I think we're talking weapon 1 still. And then expertise wise, we're probably talking the orb. The cage is pretty good, but the orb is really good. So it's one of those two, and I think it's the orb. And then passive wise, it's 1 or 2. The slow around you or the slow on the person you're hitting. I don't know if it's a big deal. I'm sure someone would argue the 2's better because it's better at ranged. So I'm probably going to put the 2 on your screen. So we're looking at 1-1-2. Hans with his new slows on his passive is very good. He also has the neutralize. And he's got the hook for the 45s, and he's got some good ranged options with the 50 damage to the head on that. I feel like if you're landing your shots on Hans, you're doing really well. Are you doing as well as you are against Madame? Because if you're initiating as Hans, you're doing great. If you're being initiated on Hans, you do have that long range option where it's kind of more skill dependent on the player. You can win those long range fights, but it is a lot harder. So he's not as good at being ambushed, assuming that ambush is at range. Although I guess if you had the passive one, that would change. This one is tough. I'm feeling... I think he's ahead of Squire. Is he ahead of Chavez? I don't think he's ahead of Madame. I think he's there. I think he fits right there. Alright. Let's go to Cavaliere. Cavaliere, the detective here. I think we're on weapon 1. I really liked the feel of the weapon 1s. It could be weapon 3, but I think I'm going to put... The weapon 3 can dish out the headshots though. No, we're going to say it's the 3. Expertise is not a huge deal considering we're looking at a fighting lens. I think investigation is kind of the go-to because it can simply be used more often than the expertise 3. You get more hits at least, or at least it feels that way. Expertise 2 I don't think sees much use, so we're going to call expertise 1 better. The ability to trace someone kind of announces your presence to them, except you can still get the jump on them a bit. Passive wise, it's 2 or 3. The slow, I'm going to say it's the slow passive 3, because if you can lead with the slow, then the wyverns are going to kill someone with the headshots really quickly. So again, we're talking about when we're initiating the fight as Cavaliere, we lead with that kick, then we dump the wyverns into their head. Just pretty unwinnable situation for them. But on the flip side, if we are being ambushed, that slowing kick isn't going to help as much as like the passive 2 might. But we have our expertise to try to force us to be the initiator more often than not. So yeah, you could still use the slowing kick if you're out of ammo. Might get you away from that situation. Or yeah, turn that around. Cavaliere she's pretty strong now. Like, just her expertise aren't amazing, but her damage numbers and just abilities, her weapon and her passives are quite good. I don't think she's S tier. I think I would rather Ace than Cav. I think I would put Madame above Cav. I think I'm putting her there. We're kind of concentrated in this area right now, but we'll see. Maybe that's just how I feel about the game right now. By the way, I did not do this in advance, and I know I'm literally doing this live and deciding like right the second I'm talking about it. So Larcin here, Larcin would definitely talking about the cadence again. It's been buffed back to near how it was. Expertise wise, we're talking combat, and I think even if we weren't, we'd still be talking expertise 2, the grand finale, the smoke bomb, and we're probably talking pickpocket. Again, none of them are necessarily better than the others in fights. Actually, if we were looking at a pure fighting lens, we might actually pick passive 2 because it's the only one that's going to help every fight, versus pickpocket probably won't. But I'm going to put pickpocket on your screen because it's definitely the more popular, because the game is not all about fighting. And yes, that does break my condition of this tier list is all about fighting, but that's too bad. We're talking about the Candace. We're talking about 2, 2, 3. Or the cadence, the Candace. Oh, jeez. I'm going to get eviscerated in the comments. The cadence with the smoke bomb is crazy strong. I'm gonna put him in S tier. I don't really know if I need to defend that, but when he's initiating the fight, you can initiate with a pickpocket. That allows you to spy check and start the fights you're looking for. If you're being ambushed, you can just poof into your smoke cloud, which gives you a huge advantage in both types of fights, I should say. Ability to either just reload when you need to, invisible, assuming you even need to reload the cadence, or you just kind of control the fight in that area, and it kind of forces them to either fight you in your terms, which is your grand finale smoke bomb, or they leave, which usually means that you are giving chase, can land some shots as they're changing with the location of the fight, which also gives you the advantage. Or if they're leaving, you do not necessarily have to continue that fight, which is another thing we were talking about, is so technically surviving a fight. So yeah, he's S tier. I don't know if anyone's going to complain about that. Someone probably will. But yeah, he's back up there after the changes to the cadence. Let's talk Yuumi. I'm sure this will be one of the more popular segments. Yuumi, we're clearly going to talk Weapon 3. We're definitely still talking Medi Field even after the recent small nerf. And we're probably talking Quick Fix, because even though booby traps is probably better, quote, in combat, we do have gadgets in the game that we haven't even discussed in this tier list, and we are going to try to avoid. But with Yuumi, I feel like it's difficult to, because the quick fix makes the shield and bounce pad so good on her in that they come back 65% faster. It's hard to ignore that, and there's a reason. Like, we don't live in the vacuum. I've tried to put this tier maker in, or this tier list in. So yeah, I can't ignore the fact that even though booby traps is probably the best in a pure combat situation, it's not really taken because quick fix is so good, because the shield is so good and the bounce pad is so good, even though we're not really talking gadgets in this. So that's, again, we're sort of breaking our own rule, but we kind of need to, because we're looking at a real situation. Heavy Longshot no longer has its one-shot headshot, down to 90 damage. I've said it before, I will say it again. I think that headshot damage nerf to Yuumi's Longshot is going to make no difference to good Yuumis, and it's going to make a lot of difference to bad Yuumis. So I'm sorry if you're looking at it and you're like, wow, that nerf totally destroyed my Yuumi gameplay. I just called you a bad Yuumi, and I stand behind it, because it's still a two-shot weapon. It could still be a one-shot with the headshot, and just a quick melee puts you up to 105 damage. You still have the Medi Field, which is slightly nerfed but still very strong. And again, we have the quick fix, meaning whatever gadgets you picked are coming back, and you just have more opportunity with those gadgets than other agents. Yuumi is above Madame. Is she above Ace? Is she above Larcin? I think she fits in here. I'm gonna put her in S tier. I think she's there. Now, she is not bug free. Sometimes the marble still bugs out and I rage a little bit, but I can't really consider that in the tier list because she's not balanced around the fact that sometimes she bugs out. Alright, let's move on to Red here. I'm sure this video is already getting long. I have not checked the time. Red here is one of the agents I actually considered, or the agent I considered putting 2 builds on screen for, because she is so versatile. The Weapon 1, the Weapon 3, both being very good right now. We are going to talk about the Weapon 1 though, because it has the range. The range is kind of important. Expertise, again, we can talk about 1 or 2 here. The Succubus Kiss, the charm effect, really strong. The Expertise 2 with the heal for 20, and the recover, really good if you take the passive 1 with it, which I believe is the one we're going to talk about no matter what. That 40% damage reduction can be triggered by really any of her expertise, but the 1 or 2 I was talking about, I think that is really what makes Red really good right now. So yeah, I think it's a 1. I'm going to say it's a 1-1-1. I think the Succubus Kiss is better than the Sweet Embrace right now. The healing for 20 is really good, but the Succubus Kiss is really hard to deal with as a rival. So we got the assault rifle. When you're leading fights, you can shoot a bunch and then hit the kiss, and it kind of forces them onto the back foot. They need to make a move or not make a move while you sit there and reload. You get, in position, right? Or they get heartbroken and you kill them. Yeah, kind of. The only downside with that is you kind of give up that damage reduction if they don't do anything. Kind of a bit of a give and take, but it does sort of put them on the back foot. If you are being ambushed, you can throw the kiss out and keep fighting, use that damage reduction. Yeah, very good agent, very strong in pretty much both situations. I think I would rather have Ace. I'm looking at this and I almost want to slide Ace down. Might want to do this. This is kind of a weird time to do it. I'm not going to do it yet because someone's going to jump through the video and be like, oh wait, that moved. She goes in here somewhere. I think she's here. Or is it here? Boy, this is a toughie. I think it's right around there. With the kiss? Yeah, with the kiss. I'm putting her above. I'm putting it there. I've decided. Okay, finally here we have the new agent Sasori. I am not going to try to pronounce his weapons. I mean, I can pronounce some of them, but I'm just going to write them all off because I suck at that. I believe we're talking weapon 2 here, the kunais. Not their real name, obviously. So the kunais and katana, as I call it, because those are words I can pronounce. Those charged kunais, although there is reports of them being a little buggy right now, when they are not, they are great. The expertise here, I think right now we're talking expertise 3, which is a little unexpected. The poison vial is very good in that it doesn't break your cover, but the noxious gas, the poison bomb, does 5 damage and is an instant, which in combat is much more useful. And passive wise, I don't think it's poison sense. I think it has to be give and take, given the situation I've already talked about. So the sword does more damage to poisoned enemies. Again, this is pretty much kind of the weapon 2 combo, except it no longer has that combo. That combo just doesn't work anymore. I still think this is probably his best build. The weapon 1's very good, and so is the poison vial. I don't think I can call it best though, but it's very close. It's another one of those where I was like, these are so close I could put them both on screen, but I think it's a 2-3-2, which honestly I'm a little unexpected by myself. But initiation wise, you can still do the 70 damage slash off the start if you're initiating. You can follow that up with the 5 damage bomb while your while your sword is cooling down. That's a 75 damage initiation. You also have the kunais. If you're initiating from range, you can charge this up to 5 before the fight starts. Yeah, it is the pass. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, as I'm describing these fights, do you want the passive too? Because if you're initiating, you're not getting the bonus of that because you have to bomb first. But if you're being ambushed, you could drop the bomb and then do you charge the sword? Do you have time? I guess if you have time, it's really good. Yeah, no, I'm sticking with it. 2-3-2. If you're being ambushed, you can sword swipe back for 30 is fine. You have the kunais, you can make range. Sasori has the ability to sprint while shooting. He's the only agent that does so, as long as you're kind of moving in a forward direction, not side to side or back specifically. You have to be moving in like a forward or forward and diagonal direction to have that sprint going. Very strong. He, as a character, though, is actually not all that strong. Is he stronger than Squire? No. I think he's going to be our C tier. He's going to make up our C tier. And that is going to be our tier list. We are going to circle back to Chavez here because I didn't get a good talk about him. And he was first, so I kind of put everyone in as compared to him. Chavez, we already talked about the loadout, but leading fights, you just you just shoot. You did a 35 damage body shot with the Duke. If you follow that up with a headshot for that 105, great. Otherwise, it's about 2 more shots, assuming no chips. If you're being ambushed, you just hit your expertise, which gives you 40% damage reduction for like 10 seconds. It's a really long time. The fight will probably be over by the time it's done, unless the opponent backs off or repositions, changes the fight in a way. Yeah, so really good in both situations. I think I'm gonna leave him exactly where I have him. I know that's almost like no duh because you balanced everyone around where you put him. Do I want to move anyone? I was talking about moving Ace down, but now I'm looking at it, and it might just be me. I prefer the automatic weapons of this compared to Ace, but I don't think they're actually better. I think that's just my bias trying to be like, these are better because they're automatic. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the tier list. I'm not going to touch it. They are within each tier. They are, you know, left to right, stronger to weaker in my thoughts. I've kind of laid out all my thoughts here. There's every chance I could take like 3 days and do this a second time and get a totally different answer. That's just the nature of the game. But there we go. That's the tier list. Do comment on your thoughts. Again, we all have opinions. You know, don't start any big arguments in the comments, please. These have been my thoughts. You're welcome to disagree. Yeah, so that's about comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed and want to see more tier list content like this. Gonna probably do a gadget tier list before the season's up, hopefully, so that kind of in the future before October-ish. I think they've hinted at the new season coming, so gonna be in the next couple weeks. We're gonna see a gadget tier list as well. That one's probably gonna be shorter and easier. Subscribe for daily Deceive Inc content, mostly gameplay, but sometimes I like to throw in videos like this and other tutorial style things. And of course, I will see you in the next one.